Yeah, let me talk a little bit about some things I've been learning in philosophy in regards to like various processes of metaphysical and interpretations of uh, new atheism and religionism, or like religion as a process, and pretty much atheist fundamentalism as a process. In some ways they're actually like the exact same. How could science, or like the view of Richard Dawkins that society is ever evolving, which is true, but the evolution of processes will inevitably result in a result that process is a result in itself. That but at that point it's kind of like saying that like God is the result of man. Like it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Same logic behind it. Starts with a base, and that base is the conclusion. It is the means to the end. It is the means and the end. Sorry, not means to the end. It's means and the end. Like it explains its process. It explains itself. Like in the same way that like God explains like the creation of the earth. Like you see how like there's the same thing. Like it's not, but that only pertains to like a certain type of atheism that like is not that isn't based off of scientific processes, because not all science is atheism. Science is a process. Science explains what it can explain. Like if like say for instance like some scientists were gonna like reflect something into use their telescopes or whatnot to look onto the moon and like do some light refractions to like see like what minerals are on the moon or whatnot. That would be them like making like some using matter to like to examine and analyze like, okay, what's the likelihood that this thing is actually exists on our desired destination or whatnot. It's different than saying like you know if in the future like we would not need this, like as a atheist thought or new atheist thought, that in the future we will actually like have the ability to not need this telescope to look at this said moon or whatnot that hundreds of miles or millions of miles away. That we can do it without by natural processes, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense as it like it's not. There's no reason to believe it. It's not like scientific. It's not based off of anything scientific. Like math can explain things, but like math can't. Math is not explanatory in itself. Like math is used for a certain type of process that can explain a certain type of thing based off of a prediction that is not always true, because science is not like absolute. It's not absolute. It's not but it does have like a lot of like various processes that are like people can observe and use. Like think of like quantum mechanics and like telecommunications systems that have like complexified over many times, so where like we have like 5G now, 6G. That's that's not made through like the idea that like science can like do it. It's that science. It's not science. Science inevitably results in 6G internet. It's you know math used in a certain process. Deductively, we have improved upon this and have proved that we can make better telecommunication systems. And it may be possible if like say for instance we reduce the frequencies or whatever, and you know and that'll improve in the future, and we should try to do that. But there's no reason to believe that like science can inevitably result in like wavelength patterns reducing to like increased signal travel. Yeah, basically to say that in the method of the purpose or telos of religious thought is that there's certain processes that are that are subjectively invented by said leaders of religion or cults or whatever, and that those values are superior. It's similar to saying that like morals are like what is right. So like Christian morals are what is right. There's no reason to believe that, because you're basically having your process be the end. It would be like saying water is wet and water is good for you. So, what is wet is good for you. There's, problems with that, of course. Wax and, other stuff. Well, wax isn't that wet, but like what if the water is too cold or whatnot. Like there's certain ways to like explain, like if you were to try to explain like why certain Christian values, like don't steal from your neighbor, don't kill, be nice to your father, worship your father as you would in my name or whatever. You could explain like why that could be good, but that's not inevitably like what is good for society. So basically, all this to say that like religion and like new atheist thought, Richard Dawkins type atheist thought, like it tries to violate principles of science, which have processes to test for. You can't test for something that doesn't exist. Like if you try to explain that, like if I have my finger up, like I am holding up the number one, but like in the future I'm gonna be able to lift this roof off the top of my head. Like you can't really explain that you would be able to do it because you can't test for it. So spirituality, in like a sense of religious scientific spirituality, is inevitably like incorrect and devoid of scientific principles. Yeah, so that's kind of like my thoughts on like what I've been learning in philosophy. Is pretty interesting and stuff like that. And I'm not the best at philosophy, but I do find it pretty interesting. And hopefully this is pretty interesting. And these are kind of like all my thoughts on science. Science as a method, like science is a process that can explain certain things, and religion is a process that doesn't explain anything. Atheism is a process that does not explain anything. Religion cannot explain anything, but it can like give like guiding principles, I guess. But those guiding principles are not correct, or they're not justified, because they're just like morals. They're just like evaluations of what is right and wrong, but it's not what is right and wrong. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Have a good one. Thank you.